Don't mind at all.
Okay, so I'm recording right now. So, yeah, looks like so there's obviously a lot of activity. I've seen there's some reports that they're really trying to push. Lindsey Graham was asking for a special counsel to get appointed to investigate Obama for treason. So, seems to me like, what at least was what we were speaking about yesterday. The very fundamental question is what sort of crimes are the Republicans willing to attempt to commit to try to squash this story?
Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything that's off the table.
Yeah.
If and this is just speculation, I've read things that suggest it, but I wouldn't present it as fact. But if they have already used the system to silence Epstein, then you would have to make the logical conclusion that there is no barrier, for them other than what they believe they may get away with. That would, that would just be where I would be from a logic standpoint if I were questioned on what I thought.
Yeah, I understand. So let's sort of run through a few things. So I called the federal RCMP yesterday, and unfortunately, they just referred me back to a local priest, to the local police here, which they can only really do anything if it's tied to Vancouver Island. And the only way it could seem like it's tied to Vancouver Island if there's some sort of threat or something. That being said, I did have a long conversation with a police officer who had some interesting feedback. And a towards the end of the discussion, the officer said, well, the officer mainly said what the officer needs is even to write up an investigation to get referred to their intel department and then to the right agency. They need some corroborative, not so much evidence in the films, but just reports like, do you have a copy of your military, the years you were in the military? Do you have any copies of the CPS reports and stuff? Because they have some of those documents they can include then to write up, so then goes into their intel department and off to the right agency.
Okay.
So that's what I sent you an email of. But we can talk about that in a minute because I think there's some optics there. We want to be careful how we're asking those questions, right? In terms of any flags. So, but then the officer offered to store the audio securely, and B, the officer offered to listen to the audio while, I said, and what about when we get some of these documents? What can the officer look at? And the officer said, then the officer can write up a longer police report with something that sort of corroborates. And by corroborate, I'm not talking about like the films or anything, just like some starting point in terms of an investigation to refer to their intel group and then to another agency, whether it's regarding national security or whatever. So
I have an idea.
Yeah.
All right. So in 1989, I was housed at a behavioral hospital in Alabama. It's called Charter Woods Memorial Hospital or Mental Hospital. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. My parents had accused me of being on drugs, so I wasn't. Not at that point in my life. I have experimented with drugs since, but not as a child, not willingly as a child. So anyway, that would have been the first time that I talked about Donald Trump specifically by name. So I'm going to go there as soon as I get my bike back. It could be as early as tomorrow, but I'll take a little road trip and see if I can't get that paperwork. The hospital itself has been closed.